All right, I am here with Brandy Green, a vintner here in Shasta County. So you have a background in science, is that right? Can you talk a little
Yeah,
bit about the path to owning and running a vineyard?
absolutely. So I received a degree in fermentation science from Oregon State. So this is really, truly what I went to school for, to be a winemaker. But from my education, I did a lot of work in wineries. And then I went and took a hard left and focused more on the chemistry side of things and have worked for about 16 years now as an environmental chemist in everything from like DOD laboratory doing research to now I work as a full-time senior environmental scientist here in the North State. I thought at the beginning of this year, and maybe by saying it out loud, I caused this whole thing. I don't know, but I had said at the beginning of the year that I thought this was the last year I would do both jobs and that I would move to being just at the winery by the end of this year. And I don't think that's the truth anymore, but it's coming. That day is coming where I'm just going to be doing wine science.
So let's talk about that a little bit. How has the pandemic and really the recession probably too changed how you are operating the kind of business you're running?
Um, I immediately pivoted. By Monday afternoon, we were already letting our customers know that they could um, expect to have curbside pickup and free local delivery to their home. And so that immediately offset what we normally see business-wise in my tasting room. And that's been really successful for us. It's been a great way to check in with our customers who we're used to seeing very regularly. So that immediately was a good step for us. And then we're working really hard to have our out-of-state shipping figured out and get into a number of new regional stores. Because for us, the truth is that events, our own events, so our wine releases and our own parties, as well as third-party events from nonprofits or weddings, that's more than half of our business.
Wow.
So we have a lot to make up.
Well, way to be creative. And it sounds like it probably took a lot of hustle in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, and not a lot of long-term planning was possible for that.
Mhm.
We are absolutely figuring it out as we go. We feel pretty lucky though that we have the opportunity to have those other revenue streams or to find these other sources. So all in all, it's going really good.
Well, switching gears a little bit, I wanted to talk about kind of what you initiated earlier, which is running an agricultural business. We who do it know that it has some very unique challenges. But of course, running a winery, what you do is very different from what I do in terms of seasonality and marketing and the years you have your product in preparation. Can you talk a little bit about some of the really wonderful things about your business and some of the challenges that you face?
Yeah, absolutely. So like anything agriculture, there's just so many question marks every year, just to do with the weather and growing a product. So, you know, when it comes to wildfires that we've had, or these small droughts that we are experiencing, or these strange weather patterns, that's been challenging for sure. Every year that's challenging, and that's the normal challenge of growing a product and getting it to market. For me, getting it to market is a long process. The barrels behind me, some of them have wine from grapes that were picked in 2014.
Wow.
So there's a long time between the amount of investment that I have in the vineyard until that return, actually hits our bank account.
Yeah.
And so when we lose out on the opportunity for that direct to consumer or face to face sale in a tasting room, it has a long chain of expenses associated with it. One of my employees and I just attended a grafting seminar because we will start producing our own grafted vines here. But yeah, it's definitely changed how our winery is looking at producing wine this year and how much we're actually going to put out. We might allow our stock to get a little low in our cellar in order to kind of ride this out. So.
Sure, sure. That's a really interesting look at like you're talking about buying grapes from other producers this year. That's an investment right now that you won't, like you were saying, you won't see the benefit of until
Yeah.
6-8 years down the road. So yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, the two sides of that are, can we afford to bottle the wine that we have ready to go to bottle and to go to customer right now?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that money better spent purchasing grapes that are available this year that may not be available in the future, but have a cost associated with them?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of challenges this year in addition to the normal challenges of just farming.
Yes. Yeah. So what about that? Let's talk about just farming because California, I think considers itself the salad bowl of the nation, right? And I think that's great. In a lot of ways, very true. I've heard a statistic that we have more income as a state from agriculture in 1 year than the gold rush ever brought in to the state.
Wow.
Kind of amazing. And, I believe it. We have a lot of productivity here.
Yeah.
But as a small farmer myself, I would say I don't always feel like the state recognizes that I am actually a farmer, that we own a farm. I don't know. Do you have similar feelings that yours maybe more nuanced?
Yeah, I think there's large commercial farms and there's small farms, and then there's really tiny farms. There's, especially so for a winery, it's called a boutique winery. And that's a really pretty word to wrap around a really small production. And even as we're growing, we are still very much in the midst of the boutique size. And we are held to the same requirements as the larger size producers, and they have a lot more to pull from. Not only do they have equipment and people to use for their production that we just don't have, they also can purchase in bulk. Luckily in the North State, as far as vineyards, we have not that many, a couple handfuls, but we have a close community, and so we are able to kind of flex some of that buying power. But the truth of the matter is, when you get below a certain threshold in size, there is a pretty big lack of representation as far as at the state level. You pay the same rates, you pay the same permit fees, and are required to kind of hold up to those same regulations when it's just not the same level of farming. And I don't have the same abilities. I don't have the same number of hands to do the work. So yeah, it's a struggle sometimes. And then also the days where I can directly call the county ag department and speak on a first name basis to someone that I know in person. That's great, and that feels very supportive too. So getting a little more of that beyond the county level is going to be helpful, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting too, because I think we are treated the same as the bigger agricultural producers when it comes to regulations. But then when it comes to eligibility for grant funds or technical help, the federal and the state government both treat big guys with much more, they welcome them in to apply for those funds and that help in much stronger way than they do as smaller producers.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think for the local wineries, not being able to get the PPP funding until, not even being able to apply for it until recently,
Wow.
I know for some of the wineries was a big struggle. When you have a small production facility, the line between making it and not making it, it's a lot thinner. And when those types of funds, especially at the federal level, when they're just not even available to an entire sector of an industry,
Yeah.
I was shocked to hear that. It was very angering, for sure.
Yeah. It's been a rocky start for sure for many of our small businesses up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Well, maybe winding up on something kind of looking forward. What are you looking forward to in the next year or two? It sounds like maybe some changes in how you allocate your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That specifically, I'm hoping. I love what I do as an environmental scientist. It's very rewarding, and I know that it's important for locals that this work gets done. But I'm reaching the point where I'm ready to make wine full time. So yeah, that's an exciting thing to look forward to. Hopefully in the next year, maybe two. And then yeah, celebrating our 20th anniversary truly will be very exciting. It was something we had a lot of plans. We had a series of 3 events worked out for past, present, and future of the winery, and um, I'm reining in some of those ideas. It's probably not going to be like that, but I'm holding pretty fast to the idea of a bacchanal celebration. So, the Greek god of wine and revelry will dance to him here, hopefully in another, I don't know, 12 months or so, however long it takes for us to be open again, to really truly celebrate 20 years of commercial production in this area, which I don't think that's a small achievement. I think that's huge. I think any business making it that long is great. And then to know that a small ag-based winery in far Northern California has made it that long, that feels like a great success. So soon.
Absolutely. Well, we all look forward to celebrating that with you, Brandy. And I wish you all the best. I'm so glad to hear this somewhat, at least, good news story about staying strong and finding new avenues. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Take care, Brandy. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, you too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.